got night 2 of our 4-series crossover, Crisis on Earth X, and once again, this is how you do a crossover. I was very, very pleased with last night's episodes, and I was very pleased with tonight's episodes. They really did it right this time. So the basic idea of this episode where we pick up, but most of our people have been held captive. They're about to be killed, and then the Resistance, I don't remember exactly what they're called, I didn't catch the term, rescues them. All the while, Supergirl's heart is about to be harvested to save evil Supergirl. She must be rescued, and a big final battle must be waged to stop the evil universe from invading Earth 1. So something along those lines is the big idea of the plot here. This is the most fun I've probably had with any of these 4 series in a couple of years. I really thoroughly enjoyed all 4 parts of this. I love what they did with this. As I move forward, this will be spoiler filled. I will be going through specific plot points. So if you haven't watched them yet, wait, watch them. Then come back, watch my thoughts. Let's have a nice discussion, comment on other people's stuff. And well, along those lines, what did you think about it? Tell me down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Get some discussion going on in there. If you guys actually didn't like this crossover, that kind of surprised me. Most of you, vast majority, loved it. You're on the same page as me. A handful of you weren't so crazy about it. Some lazy writing you guys mentioned, as well as just too much talky talk in the first part, too much melodrama. Fair enough. I can see where you're coming from. For me, I was very pleased with what they did. With that said, I'm just going to dive into the good on this one, and it's almost all good. Pretty much all good here. So, if you haven't watched my review from yesterday, check that one out first. I'm not going to expand on the stuff I talked about yesterday, but essentially what I was very happy about is that they found a way to bring all these stories together. They told it as one cohesive story as opposed to very episodic, and each series episode is very similar to their show. No, they didn't do it like that like they did last year. They did it in a way that it just feels like one continuous movie that could be cut together. They found a plot line that makes sense for them to come together for a wedding, and they found a reason, an invasion storyline or invasion, altered Earth stuff that makes for good villains, fun storytelling, and Nazis make for good comic booky stuff. I elaborate on all that stuff on yesterday's episode, so I'm not going to talk about it here. What I loved about this thing the whole thing, is that they found a way to tell a full story that's really well structured, if you think about it. Each one of the 4 episodes has a clear point. It leads into the next episode. Each episode has a distinct thing about it. It doesn't feel like we're rehashing the same sort of thing. I mean, you've got this wedding one that gets interrupted that sets up this Nazi Earth. You have the one where they're held captive and there's a resistance. You have an invasion on Earth. You have the one where they're battling, figuring things. Like, each one has a unique feel to it. Each one brings in unique other characters, side characters from the different shows, bring back some side characters, some hints in there of perhaps a future Allen child making an appearance in the mix, and all of this is one of the theories going on out there. But it's just structured really well that you very much so you could cut this into a 3-hour movie and it would work. And you could cut it, if you cut it down to about 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, it would probably move really quick. Because it's 4 episodes of a TV series, it stretches out a little bit, but you could cut it down to a really swift, nicely paced TV movie that would be very good, very good. Some people in the comment section mentioning that they liked this Justice League movie more than the actual Justice League movie, and this is what they wish that Justice League movie was like. Fair enough. I can see very much so where you're coming from. Another thing that I loved about what they did here is that it had stakes. It wasn't just let's tell a fun story that's kind of this offshoot thing where we go off on an adventure on other Earths, and that's our excuse for how we're able to fiddle around and have a big adventure, but it doesn't matter. They didn't do that. What happens here really matters. First off, not first off, we've got 2 weddings and a funeral. 2 weddings and a funeral. And one of those weddings we knew was coming. That was the premise of all this. One of them was a surprise wedding. Even from the first episode to the big twist at the end of having our second wedding. Actually, the second wedding is 2 weddings in that one. And anyway, 2 ceremonies of sorts, 2 weddings of people getting married. But our queen wedding, we didn't know that one was coming. But 2 weddings and a funeral. Like someone actually died. A character, there have been murmurs that he'd be off the show. Like that was seeming like that was coming for a while. And so they found a way to give him a good death that they were building toward, foreshadowing that he was leaving, and then found a way to kind of still surprise him, give him a good death. And it's not, and it had weight. Like it wasn't just kind of like, hey, he died, oh man, give him a heroic moment, and then they moved on. No, I mean, it like the whole episode became about this death, sacrifice, a funeral. And they worked all these kind of different elements into what they were doing with it. And so the episode, this crossover was a big story with scale to it, but it also had consequences. These shows will be different moving forward. Well, I mean, I guess Supergirl probably didn't change too much because that's the one that's on a different Earth and stuff. But 3 of these shows had a major shift that happened because of what happens in these crossovers, to where those shows are different now because of what happened here. And that's it makes this stuff matter. It makes you like really care about it. It's one that to say to people, some people a little bit burned out on some of these shows. And I was even talking to my buddy Durbin. I was like, man, you got to check this one out. This is really good. And I was talking about part 1. Part 2 is just as good. Part 2 has stuff that matters in it. And that's where I can recommend it to people. No, you want to check these ones out because it matters and makes you care about the stuff happening here. Because that really matters. And then finally, last one on here, just kind of big positive, unique to this one, is it there's a lot of scale, a lot of production value, a lot of budget on the screen throughout all of this, because they're doing all this Earth 53 Earth X stuff kind of going on, and you have to like build a whole new Nazi world, these big sets of rooms full of military guys and prison camps and resistance locations and stuff like that look, I'm sure they're reusing sets, but they have to look totally different from what we normally see. And they found a way to do all of this that gives us scale and size to it. And then we get to our final battle at the end of the second episode. Or even in all these episodes, they've had, the wedding battle. They're in this big fancy church, and there's 40 people involved in this big action sequence. The prison escape resistance episode. They're big rooms full of all the episodes. I guess had rooms full of Nazis getting mowed down by machine guns. But of course, leading to a final battle in a city where you to the best that you can do with these shows. I mean, you're seeing streets, spaceships flying all over the cities, Nazis falling down left and right, and they found a way to make it feel like it had scope to it. Last year, it felt a little bit like they were on a roof. But there's an alien invasion on the roof of this building, and so like I remember watching it being like, this feels awfully small for the world's gonna end. And so here they found a way to get the scale, size, scope of everything right. So a lot of stuff like that. That's what makes me, really enjoy it. Like this is what I wanted. This is what I want a crossover to be. This is what I want these shows to be: comic booky, weird, quirky, ludicrous in the best types of ways, wacky scenarios kind of happening. And they found ways to tell a story that brought everybody together, that mattered. People died. People got married. Worlds got changed by things that happened. And so therefore, you feel like this is something that wasn't just kind of like, oh, that was kind of a fool. So like, for example, they did the Music Meister episode last season. So they did a crossover with Supergirl because she can sing and Grant can sing. And I think might have done some Glee before or something like that. And so then they do the episode, and it's like a dream world thing where, it's at a period piece. And so it just kind of felt inconsequential. It didn't matter. It was like, okay, they're in their dreams, dreaming about, the 20s and 30s, singing lounge songs together. Whereas here, it mattered. Stakes, consequences, all good, cool stuff. So moving on to the bad, once again, like yesterday, I don't have a whole lot to say, and it's pretty minor sorts of stuff. So kind of going through those ones. For this episode specifically, I'm not I'm not crazy about Iris and Barry just being like, well, go run and grab Diggle and we'll do a wedding right here in the park. And it just felt, even if you're going to do this small scale sort of thing, felt like you should either just go to the court, like literally go to the courthouse and do it. But the idea that they're standing in the park, I don't know, it felt off to me. It felt like a weird way to in that section. And it seemed like the reason they did that, the reason they had it set up to where like, all right, let's just do this right here in the park, was so that they could go Felicity can go, oh, Oliver, will you marry me? That seemed like the only reason to do that. And I like that one. I like that side to it of having a nice book into that, something that mattered, changing things. Maybe a different context. I don't, it seemed for a bunch of things in this episode, I really liked the way they set it up and the production value. It just seemed like we're standing in a park. How about right here? And, Diggle's just here because the Flash can run fast. That kind of felt off to me. Other bad that kind of stuck out in this one, same stuff as yesterday, is that some of the evil character people, they're just overcooking it. And, I can see why, because it's like, all right, you're still Oliver Queen, but so act like Oliver Queen, but act like evil Oliver Queen. And so then that when you do things like that, you kind of default to kind of some over the top stuff. And I'm not quite sure if I'm in a Nazi uniform on a comic book bright red set and you're doing some stuff that could be offensive if you get too serious with it. With someone walks in and they say that Felicity here had a star. David was a Jew. Like I think they said she's a Jew killer. Like I don't remember exactly what it said. But it was like, that's a bit much, and you kind of have to get a little bit campy when you're pulling on Nazi type things, but it just felt a little bit overcooked. It wasn't convincing. It was more like, like any one of us being like, I'm so mad at you right now. You don't feel like I'm actually mad at you. You feel like I'm screaming and trying to make an angry face. Okay. That's probably because I'm a bad actor. Well, I'm a bad actor, but felt overcooked. And also the CGI once again. I don't hold it against this show. I'm glad that they do it. I'm glad that we're in an era where you can create things like this, that you can see things. But at the same time, for some people, you're going to watch it and be like, this is cheap CGI. You're trying to do stuff you can't do on the budget that you have. And so when you have this big epic battle and you're seeing spaceships kind of fly around and big images of the city that are clearly CGI, and then two Flashes running in the middle of all of it, it's a really cool sequence. But the CGI is TV CGI. So I don't want to hold it against the show, but to give a full perspective, it's TV CGI. So there you have it. I was very happy with all four parts of this, the structure of it. I'm sure they're going to, I don't know, I'm not sure about that. They'll probably put out like a Blu-ray or something of kind of the four. I think I would do that if I was them, because that's what it is. And maybe edit. I don't know if they'd add a little bit of footage, what they might do, but I would make something like that if I were them. They should let me run their studios. Anyway, sorry as I'm rambling. I loved it. I've said that already. So what about you? Tell me your thoughts down below. Next week is the season or mid-season finales for the show. So I'll probably do a Flash and Arrow mid-season finale, really more mid-season review. I'm probably going to do that next week. So if you're checking this out, I think I will be coming back with more of these next week. Tell me your thoughts down below. And if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos. But the key thing is I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies and TV with you. So join me in the comment section. Let's have a lively discussion. And thank you so much for watching.